Rain drizzled over the neon-lit streets of Seoul, blurring the lights of cafes, convenience stores, and small apartment complexes. Keisha shivered as she hurried along the wet pavement, her phone clutched tightly in her hand. She had lived in Seoul for almost a year now, working at a small digital marketing firm, and yet something about the city still made her feel tiny, adrift among the sea of people. Her phone buzzed again, the screen lighting up with a message that made her stomach knot. "I know where you are. Don't try to hide." Keisha froze in the middle of the street. She had been receiving messages like this for weeks, from someone she once trusted. Her ex. The anger and fear she felt were a constant, gnawing presence. She tried blocking him, ignoring him, even changing her number once, but somehow he always found a way. "Enough," she muttered to herself, fingers trembling as she typed a reply, her thumb hovering over the send button. "Stop. Leave me alone. I don't care about you anymore." She hit send and exhaled, expecting a small sense of relief. Instead, her phone vibrated immediately with an error notification. Her heart skipped a beat. She had typed fast, furious, and she had sent the message to the wrong number. Across town, in a high-rise office adorned with dark mahogany and the faint smell of cigars, a phone buzzed. A man with sharp features and an aura of authority glanced at the screen. The message read, "Stop. Leave me alone. I don't care about you anymore." He smirked slightly, his eyes narrowing. A name popped up on his screen, Keisha. He put the phone down and turned to a subordinate. "Find her," he said, his voice calm but carrying a weight that made the subordinate flinch. "And make sure whoever's bothering her doesn't have the chance to send another message." Keisha had barely finished walking up the stairs to her apartment when she heard a knock on her door. She frowned. It was late. Visitors weren't exactly normal in her building. "Who is it?" she called, trying to mask the tremor in her voice. A deep voice, smooth and controlled, responded. "Keisha, it's me. Can we talk for a moment?" She hesitated, her instincts screaming caution. But there was something in the calmness of the voice, that drew her closer. When she opened the door, her eyes widened. Standing there was a man taller than most she had ever met, dressed in a dark suit that seemed tailored to command respect. His presence filled the small hallway. Behind him, a younger man lingered, alert and tense. I think you have the wrong apartment," Keisha stammered. He smiled faintly, not unkindly. "No mistake. I received your message. I understand someone has been threatening you." Keisha blinked. "Wait, someone else? You're not." He raised a hand. "I'm here to make sure you're safe. But first, we need to find the person causing you this fear." Her heart pounded in her chest. The reality of the situation was sinking in. Somehow, by mistake, she had contacted one of the most dangerous men she'd heard whispers about in the news. And now he was here, offering protection. The next night, Keisha found herself sitting in a sleek black car, rain streaking the windows as the city lights passed in a blur. She didn't speak much. The man beside her, the Mafia Boss, simply nodded occasionally. He didn't ask for explanations. He seemed to know everything from the moment he read that misdirected message. Finally, they arrived at a dimly lit street where her ex had been hiding out, thinking no one would find him. The boss and his subordinate approached silently, and Keisha could hear nothing but the rain tapping on the pavement. Suddenly, the street light flickered. Her ex froze mid-step as the boss stepped into view, his presence imposing, silent yet commanding. "Do you know who I am?" the man asked softly, almost conversationally. Her ex swallowed hard, eyes darting, sweat mixing with rain. I don't. You've been harassing someone who had nothing to do with your anger. That ends tonight." The subordinate moved forward, blocking any possible escape. The look in the boss's eyes was enough. Keisha could feel the air itself tightening around her ex. Fear clawed at his chest. By the time the encounter ended, her ex was on his knees, trembling, the memory of the boss's calm yet terrifying presence etched into his mind. The lesson was clear. He would never threaten anyone again. Back in the car, Keisha exhaled, feeling the tension drain from her body. The boss glanced at her. his expression unreadable. "You're safe now." She looked down at her hands, suddenly aware of how close she had come to real danger, and yet, how someone she didn't even know could step into her life and protect her so completely. "Thank you," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "It's not just about protection. You were angry, frustrated, and scared. That's human. I understand that." Something in her chest stirred, a mix of awe, relief, and a strange warmth. She had been terrified of strangers, and yet here was one who had walked into her world, turned her fear into safety, and left her with a sense of calm she hadn't felt in months. As the car pulled back into the city, lights reflecting off the wet streets, Keisha found herself stealing a glance at him. The aura of danger that had once frightened her now felt strangely comforting. "You'll check on me again?" she asked, hesitant. He chuckled softly. "If I must." It wasn't much, but to Keisha, it felt like the beginning of something unexpected. Something dangerous, thrilling, and maybe even tender. And in that quiet moment, as the city hummed around them, she realized that sometimes the most unexpected connections came from the most unlikely mistakes. Keisha returned to her apartment that night with a strange mix of relief and unease. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets shimmering under the neon lights. She poured herself a cup of tea, wrapping her hands around the warmth as she tried to process everything that had just happened. Her phone buzzed again. For a moment, her heart leapt. Had her ex somehow found her again? But it wasn't him. It was a short message. "Are you okay?" Her thumb hovered over the screen. It took a moment for her to realize. The message was from the Mafia Boss. She hesitated, then typed back, "I'm fine. Thank you." The reply came almost instantly. "Good. Rest tonight. Tomorrow we talk." Keisha's mind spun. This man, dangerous, powerful, feared, was now personally checking on her. And she found herself not scared. Not anymore. The next morning, the boss arrived at her apartment at a time she hadn't expected. He didn't knock. The door was unlocked, something she hadn't even realized he had a key for, and there he was, standing in the doorway like he belonged there. "Morning," he said, his tone casual but somehow commanding. "We need to ensure he doesn't return. I'll be honest, your ex is clever, but he's reckless." Keisha swallowed. "I thought he got the lesson last night." "He did," the boss replied, "but sometimes fear isn't enough. Some people need reminders." Her curiosity overcame her nervousness. How did you find him so fast?" He leaned against the doorframe, hands in his pockets. "Let's just say I have ways. People leave trails, even when they think they disappear. I have people who notice things others miss." There was a pause. She studied him closely. The sharp eyes, the calm confidence, the subtle strength in his posture. Part of her wondered how someone could be so dangerous and yet so protective. "You're not like anyone I've met," she said quietly. He smiled faintly, almost to himself. "I've been told that before." Over the next few days, he stayed nearby, not overtly, not in a way that felt oppressive, but enough that Keisha always knew she wasn't alone. They walked together through the bustling streets of Myeongdong, grabbed coffee at small cafes tucked away in quiet alleys, and she found herself laughing at small jokes he made. The city, which once felt vast and overwhelming, now seemed intimate somehow, shared between the two of them. One afternoon, they sat on a bench overlooking the Cheonggyecheon stream. The water shimmered in the afternoon light, people passing by without noticing them. "You don't have to explain anything to me," he said suddenly, breaking a comfortable silence. "But I want you to know that no one should make you feel afraid. Not ever." Keisha's chest tightened. "It's hard to feel safe after everything. I've been stalked before, threatened. I thought I could handle it myself. But," she trailed off, unsure how to finish the thought. He nodded, understanding. "You don't have to handle it alone. Some things are too heavy for one person. And sometimes, people show up when you least expect it." She turned to look at him. His eyes weren't intimidating here. Not really. There was something soft behind them, something she hadn't expected from a man who could command fear with just a glance. It wasn't long before Keisha realized that the ex was more than just scared. He was gone, truly gone. The boss had made sure of it. And yet, with that danger removed, another kind of tension settled over them. One evening, she returned to her apartment to find a note slipped under her door. Her heart skipped a beat, half expecting another threat, but the elegant handwriting simply said, "Dinner. My place. 8 p.m. Don't be late." Her pulse quickened. Could she trust him? Was it safe? And yet, part of her wanted to say yes. When she arrived, he opened the door before she could knock. The apartment was modern, minimalistic, but comfortable. He gestured toward a small table set for two. "You made me dinner?" she asked, surprised. He shrugged lightly, a small smirk tugging at the corner of his lips. "I didn't want to leave anything to chance." As they ate, conversation flowed easily. He asked about her work, her life in Seoul, her dreams. And for the first time in months, she didn't feel like the weight of the city, or her past, was pressing down on her. She felt normal, almost safe. Later, as she helped clear the dishes, their hands brushed. Both of them paused. Keisha felt a jolt, a spark she hadn't expected. She looked up, and he was watching her, his expression unreadable. "You're not like anyone I've ever met," he said quietly, echoing her earlier words. Her cheeks warmed. "Neither are you." The days turned into weeks. Keisha began to realize how much she enjoyed his presence. Not just the safety, but the company, the quiet moments, the way he seemed to understand her without needing everything explained. She found herself thinking about him when he wasn't there, wondering if he was thinking about her too. One night, they walked along the Han River, the city lights reflecting in the water. A cool breeze tugged at her hair. "I've been thinking," she said softly, hesitating. "About everything. About him, about you, about me." He turned to her, his expression patient. "Go on." I don't know how to explain it," she admitted. "But I feel like I don't have to be afraid with you. And that means something. I don't know what yet, but it means something." He smiled then, a genuine, warm smile. "Keisha, that's all I need to hear." And in that moment, something shifted between them. Not a grand declaration, not a sudden confession of love, but a quiet understanding, a connection born from danger, trust, and unexpected circumstances. As they walked in silence, side by side, the city humming around them, Keisha realized that life had a strange way of delivering second chances. Sometimes, it arrived disguised as the most unlikely person, the one who showed up when you didn't expect it, who made fear disappear, and replaced it with possibility. The following days were filled with small, unspoken moments that drew Keisha and the boss closer. He never forced intimacy, never overstepped, yet his presence was magnetic, grounding her in ways she hadn't known she needed. She found herself noticing the little things. The curve of his smile when he teased, the subtle patience in his gaze, the way his hand would brush hers by accident and linger just long enough to make her heart skip. One rainy afternoon, they found themselves in a quiet tea house near Insadong. Outside, the streets shimmered with reflections of lanterns and neon, but inside it was calm, almost meditative. Steam rose from their cups as they sat across from one another. "You've changed the way I see this city," Keisha said quietly, tracing the rim of her teacup. "Before, it felt overwhelming. Scary sometimes. But with you, it feels different." He leaned back, studying her with a gaze that seemed to pierce through all of her defenses. "Keisha, you've changed the way I see it too. You're fearless in ways most people aren't, even if you don't always realize it. And you make me want to protect something that's not mine by right, but by choice." Her heart fluttered. "Protect me?" she asked softly. "Yes," he said simply, and the weight in his tone carried more sincerity than any words could have. "Not because I have to, but because I want to." The way he said it, calm and matter-of-fact, made her believe it instantly. She realized then that what she felt for him was no longer mere curiosity or gratitude. It was something deeper, something tethered to trust, excitement, and the strange thrill of being cared for so fiercely. A week later, Keisha found herself walking through a small park after work. The cherry blossoms were beginning to bloom, and the scent of spring filled the air. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from the boss. "Meet me by the river. Don't worry about the rain." Her pulse quickened. She arrived to find him waiting, the wind tugging at his coat. He didn't smile immediately. He simply extended a hand. "Come with me," he said. Curiosity piqued. She followed him down the path to a secluded riverside dock. The water glimmered under the city lights, and the only sound was the gentle lapping against the wooden posts. He stopped, turning to face her. "Do you trust me?" he asked. Keisha blinked, caught off guard. I think I do." He studied her, then reached out gently, taking her hand in his. The contact was warm, grounding. "Good. Because I want you to know something. Something I don't say often." Her heart raced. "I'm not used to letting anyone in," he said softly. "Most people are afraid of what I am, what I do. But with you, I want to be different. I want to be with you. Not because of fear or obligation, but because I want it. Because I want you." Keisha felt a warmth spread through her chest, and without thinking, she closed the space between them. He didn't pull away. Instead, he leaned closer, a quiet understanding passing between them, a shared acknowledgement that this was real. I want that too," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. I've been afraid for so long. But with you, I feel safe. And more than that, I feel like I could actually be happy." A slow, approving smile curved his lips. He took both her hands in his now, holding them firmly yet gently. "Then let's take that chance, Keisha. Together." After that night, their relationship grew naturally, a balance of quiet understanding, mutual respect, and subtle affection. The boss didn't smother her, didn't overwhelm her with his world, but he allowed her glimpses of it, letting her see the loyalty, the codes, and the unspoken rules that governed his life. And through it all, Keisha saw not just the danger, but the humanity beneath it, a man who could be ruthless when necessary but gentle with those he cared about. They explored Seoul together, often walking late at night along the Han River, sharing stories, laughing at small misadventures, and sometimes just sitting in silence, comforted by each other's presence. And then there was the night she saw him confront a minor threat, a petty rival who had tried to intimidate a friend of his. He handled it swiftly, efficiently, and terrifyingly, but when he returned to her side, he was calm, soft, almost tender, as if nothing had happened. She realized then that this was who he was, capable of fearsome power, yet able to create safety and trust around him. Months passed. The ex was a distant memory, safely removed from her life, never daring to return. The fear that had once consumed her was replaced by something new, a sense of belonging she hadn't expected to find in a city where she had once felt invisible. One evening, as the sun set over Seoul, casting long golden reflections across the river, the boss walked with her along the promenade. The air was crisp, and the city lights flickered on one by one. "Do you ever think about what's next?" she asked softly. He glanced at her, then at the horizon. "Every day. But I've learned that life doesn't wait. Sometimes, the right people show up unexpectedly. And when they do, you take the chance." Keisha smiled. "I'm glad I made that mistake." He looked at her curiously. "The message," she said, chuckling lightly. "Sending it to you by accident. It's ironic, isn't it? That a mistake brought me to you." He smirked, a hint of warmth in his expression. "Some mistakes are worth making." She reached for his hand, and he intertwined his fingers with hers. For the first time in a long while, Keisha felt completely at peace, safe in a way she hadn't known was possible, and, more dangerously, entirely seen by someone who understood her. The city moved around them, bright and chaotic, but in that moment, they were untouchable. They didn't need words, didn't need explanations. The bond between them, forged from fear, accident, and protection, had grown into trust and something deeper, something that neither time nor circumstance could undo. As they walked together into the night, hand in hand, Keisha realized that love could come from the most unexpected places. Sometimes it came in the form of protection, in the form of someone stepping into your life when you needed them most. And sometimes, it came from a simple, unintended message that changed everything. Her heart, once heavy with fear, now felt light. For the first time in months, she smiled fully, looking at him with warmth, trust, and a spark of something she could only describe as hope. And he, in turn, held her hand a little tighter, letting her know that whatever came next, he would face it by her side. No fear, no hesitation, only the quiet promise of something real. The rain had stopped, the city lights reflected in the river like shards of gold, and somewhere, in the chaos of Seoul, a black girl and a Korean Mafia boss had found something neither had expected, a second chance at safety, trust, and love.